Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are painting a pumpkin painting that I don't have an example of because we're doing this together. We got Michael here working the cameras.
Hey guys.
And all of the supplies I'm using and the outline can be found in this YouTube video description, so you can go there to refer to get your supplies and everything you need. We are going to be doing this project in 4 steps. Our very first step is we're going to paint the pumpkin. Our second step is we're going to paint the flowers. Our third step is we're going to paint the leaves in the stem. And our very last step is any finishing details. Okay?
Sounds simple enough.
Now, before we get started, we need to do our oath. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
And I love to start that way because you guys got to remember, painting is just about the joy of it. Oh no!
What happened?
My colors bled together. Look how sad it is.
Oh, that is sad.
Okay,
What do you do?
so for butcher trays, I like butcher trays because you have all of this mixing area. There is a dip along the edge. That's where you keep your paints. And most of the time, they stay right there. Sometimes they'll mix together if you put too much paint, which is what I did. So what I do,
Swipe the whole thing up, huh?
I just swipe it up. Let's get some cleaner water. Yep. And then let's pour some more in, and I'm just going to be a little bit more aware of how much color I'm pouring. There we go. I'm just going to start with the sea salt color first because that's the color of our pumpkin. Okay?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to take my round 12, or you can use whatever size brush you feel comfortable using. I'm going to grab this gorgeous color. I might be a little biased because I totally picked and designed each of these colors, but they're so good. I'm going to start by painting the edge of the pumpkin with my darkest value right on the side right before the chunk. And then I use water to spread out the color in the rest of the area. And the reason why we want to do that is because we want there to be different values along our pumpkin ridges. That's how we can tell our viewer that it's rounded and it kind of goes in. Now, it's possible that, if you're just starting out, it's difficult for you to keep the values right there. So you can always wait for it to dry and then go back and do another layer, which depending on how this dries, we might need to do. Okay? And I'm just going to repeat that. Start kind of on that side. I'm going to avoid the leaves. It's not a huge deal if you get into the leaves because those are going to be green. And this is such a beautiful, desaturated blue color that it is not the end of the world if it mixes with green. You know what I mean? Those colors will actually kind of be really pretty next to each other, so don't stress. Now, if you want to make sure that there is no bleeding between these two sections, you can either wait for this to dry before you paint the next section or just leave a little bit of a thin line in between. Now, I just want to reiterate, these colors are very light in value naturally. And so you might have to do a couple layers if you really want this color to be brighter. But I really love the toned down version of it. And so I'm just going to keep on going.
It really reminds me of those white pumpkins that you buy.
Exactly.
But better.
That's
blue.
exactly what I was going for.
Well, you nailed it.
Yeah, you know how sometimes there are those pumpkins that are white or sometimes they lean a little bit blue or green? That's what I wanted here. And this is what's cool about outlines. You know what I mean? Is you can decide what your colors are. For me, I'm doing, blushes and soft blues and, just kind of very different than maybe traditional fall decor. But if you wanted to do bright orange and deep burgundy flowers, gorgeous. Gorgeous,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too is if you get unevenness in your wash, we call those blooms where there's a hard line. from how that happens is like uneven drying or like uneven paint application that dries at different times, which is how you get blooms. They're not the end of the world. I'm a fan of blooms personally, actually. I think they add something to the painting, so I don't get mad when I see that. So if you guys are painting and you're getting really frustrated, first of all, don't calm down. It's okay. And then second of all, just know that like this paper that we're using here, this is a wood pulp or a cellulose paper, which is not 100% cotton paper. And so it does tend to bloom a little bit easier. So if you really do not like blooms, then think about investing in 100% cotton paper. It is more expensive, but it's a higher quality. And because of how it's made and the quality of the paper, your chances of blooms lessen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm going to pre-ask for all the people at home because they're going to go to the store and they're going to see, wood pulp paper, 100% cotton paper. Also, they're going to see hot press and cold press. You got
Yes.
You want to weigh in on that while you're drying stuff?
Yes, thank you for saying that. So hot press and cold press. Cold press has a texture to it. It's a little bit rougher. Hot press is smooth, like baby bottom smooth.
Okay.
And both are great. I will say that for hot press, watercolor does not move the same way on there. Hot press, like once you make a mark, okay, how do I say this? If you've been painting for a while with watercolor, and let's say you put paint down and then you grab water and you smear it, usually the paint within there kind of moves within that wet area on cold press paper. On hot press paper, you will always have a mark of when that initial brush stroke goes. So I like hot press paper. I have found that people traditionally use it for very detailed paintings because since it's smooth, you can use very fine brushes and get like really great lines because there's not a texture in there to create kind of like any chittering or something like that. Chattering or whatever the word we use.
Both great words.
Like an unevenness to it.
Yeah.
Although I have seen some people use hot press with like very loose florals, like Kelly Ventura is a beautiful floral artist and her paintings are very loose and gorgeous, but she uses hot press paper. And so I prefer cold press, but that's the difference. If you want it to be very controlled and detail oriented and you don't want to do like big loose washes with all this stuff, then you might want to go with cold press. It has a tooth to it, a texture to it. Okay, so I did my first layer. You can see I have a little bit of blooms here and there. I'm not mad about it. If you looked at pumpkins, they have like weird spots on them all the time. So
Right.
It's actually not a big deal.
Also, we're making art, not photographs,
Exactly. I'm going to do one more layer, kind of in the areas that have the dashes for the shadows, just to kind of show a little bit more form. Okay. And again, if you're not getting the value change that you really want, if it's just kind of just even in value, it's not the end of the world, you guys. It's really okay. The other thing you can do is because sea salt is such a light value and you're like, no matter how many layers I do, it's not getting as dark as I want. Well, maybe grab a little bit of a darker value, maybe indigo or something like that, and just add that to your mixture. And that is just going to create a little bit of a darker value. Now this center pumpkin area is a little bit tricky because it's actually facing us. So these, it's very clear where the darker values are. This one that's coming out at us, you're like, where do I put the dark values? You just kind of want to do them on either edge. Okay. And sometimes if you really like a texture and you don't want it to be super smooth, you can actually even just take some sea salt and like dry off your brush so it's a little bit dry, and you can do these kind of like scratchiness on there.
Ooh, that's nice.
Which I think is kind of nice, but I'm a fan of the dry brush technique. Okay, that's our pumpkin. Now we get to do the flowers. And the flowers are so pretty. And I love doing the flowers because They're loose.
What accent was that?
Oh, please don't.
This is my favorite game.
I am the worst with accents.
That was a solid British accent, I would say.
But whenever I try to do a British accent, it's embarrassing. I don't even know what noise I'm making. It's fine. Okay, so I'm just taking a couple of my peach colors. Like I have a dusty rose and a blush. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of mixing them together. You don't have to mix them together. You can keep one or do totally different colors, up to you. And I'm just going to do a loose wash over the whole thing. And then right above where the center is on this flower, I'm going to drop in a little bit of a darker or like just that pure color right there. Just going to let it be. And then if you want to do like the little edges on some of these flowers, you can. But remember, this whole flower is wet. And whenever you put wet paint into an already wet surface, it's going to diffuse and soften out. I don't mind that. I actually really like that look. So I'm going to put it kind of wherever I see the edge of a petal to start to kind of shape my flower. Okay. Oh, stunning. Okay, next one. And because we're doing wet on wet techniques, it's okay if they bleed a little bit into each other. So I'm going to let that happen. I'm just going to let these flowers kind of touch. And if these colors kind of bleed, that's cool. I'm totally cool with it. If they don't, that's totally cool too, man.
How pretty would it be if pumpkins grew flowers like that?
Oh, God. I would have them everywhere. All the pumpkins.
It kind of looks like a cactus right now, actually. Cactus grow flowers on top.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which is so pretty. Those flowers are such a good color too.
Oh, yeah.
They're the
Talk about that like purpley, pinky. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. So again, same process, do an all even wash. And while it's still damp, I'm just going to kind of put in a more pure value or more pure color on areas that I want to kind of show some of the shape. And if you don't like that, you're like, no, I don't like it. Don't do it. This is your painting. Just because I'm doing something, that doesn't mean you have to do it. And I'm definitely not one of those teachers that are like, if you go off script, then you can get out of here.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. If anything, I'm like, yes, please don't listen to me. Please do whatever you want. Because I think it's super cool when we do different things. This makes me happy. Okay. And if you want, if you're feeling a little bit edgy and you don't mind if some yellow bleeds into the pink, which I am never mad about that, while it's still damp like this, you can touch some of this golden color for your center. So, and see how it just like moves? Oh,
So good.
Now this might be, I'm not sure if this is going to move as much because this one has dried a lot. But that's okay. I'm still going to put it in there anyway. And then maybe a little touch here. Oh my gosh. Can you even deal? Okay. Oh, let's also add little dark edges here.
Edgy.
We're being edgy here by putting in some edges. Now, I'm just kind of roughly following the outlines that I can see. Sometimes the outline kind of disappears as you add paint. So if that happens, don't like stress. Don't feel like, oh no, where do I put this? Honestly, it doesn't matter. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh gosh, I love how that yellow bled out. Okay. We're going to let this dry. Now, Michael, can you make sure the camera is pointed at my face?
Ready, set, go.
Look at me when I tell you this. A Heat It craft tool will change your watercolor practice, okay? They're like $10 to $20. They're so worth it. I didn't believe it. When somebody told me this, I went 7 years painting watercolor without this heat tool. And the amount of time that I just like do while waiting for it to dry. Ridiculous. Just get one. It's different than a hair dryer. Okay.
Does it work well for drying your hair? Have you tried?
I will not be trying that. Okay, next we're going to do our leaves. So I'm using this really gorgeous, like very desaturated green. Again, our painting here is like very like
Dusty.
dusty. So this is a forest green.
Is that the vibe you were going for, or did I just steamroll
No, it's
that?
perfect, Michael.
Okay, thank
Dusty was the perfect description, like really gross and old. And there's moths,
It's a dusty
places,
pumpkin, a dustkin.
a dustkin.
There's moths.
Who doesn't want their artwork described as dusty?
Dusty.
Like, tell me that.
Real strong attic vibes.
Really strong.
It's been in
Like,
the attic all year.
is this from your grandma's house or? Okay, and then what I like to do with greens, because green is beautiful, but I love variation in my colors. So while it's wet, let's throw.
Whoa.
Whoa. Maybe that's too much. You can drop in some gold, but maybe not as much as I did. So you can do hints of gold here. So see how it kind of warms up that side.
Nice.
I also have this really lovely indigo, which is like a very desaturated kind of navy color. So I can drop that in here and there. And again, some gold here. So just by introducing these other colors within our green, it adds a richness to it that was not previously there by having just the single green. And you can do both. You can have like some, like this is just the forest green. So because this element is different than these two, it's fine to leave that there. Or you can be like, no, I love all the differences. Sometimes I like to fill in a color and then go along the edge while it's wet and just let those colors bleed. Ugh, can you even deal? Okay, and let's keep on going. Do more of this yellow. Whoa. Man, I have a problem with that. So whenever that happens, you can take a paper towel and just blot it out. Or I can use my paintbrush to actually wipe it out. So I just lift and wipe, lift and wipe.
Nice. Now it looks on purpose.
Now it looks beautiful. It looks very dusty.
That's going to be our inside joke now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, babe, you're looking way dusty today.
Ooh, look at that new outfit. You're looking dusty.
We're married, by the way.
Yeah. This isn't weird. And then you can see here that my pink flower was a little bit wet and my leaf touched it. And I'm not mad about that because when it happens, the perfectionist inside of us goes, no, there's not green on flowers. But actually, sometimes there are green on flowers. And also, like these kind of blooms or these accidental bleeds, that is the point of watercolor. It is a surprise. It is accidental. It is interesting. And we have to fight that thing in our brain that's telling us, oh no, it needs to be exactly this and exactly separated. And instead we can say, I'm an artist recreating something. How can I make something more visually interesting than a realistic version of what I'm painting? And so those blooms, I say, bring it on, baby. Also, the thing about outlines that I want you guys to remember is they are simply guidelines. And what I mean by that is you're going to fill in some leaves, and you're going to paint these flowers, and then you're going to look at this and you're going to say, does this need something more? Do I want to add another leaf that's not there? Do I want to switch up? Maybe it's sitting on a table. Like, you're the artist here. So you can take this outline and use it as just a basic guide to then let your imagination go.
You could add leaves or conversely just leave it alone.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have 3 children.
This is level 3 dad
It's a
jokes.
level 3 dad joke. Okay. Oh, like look at how this yellow is coming. And I love that I can get that hint of indigo on those leaves. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. I know that I said I was going to do the stem, but I'm going to actually do the stem later. I'm going to do the details on the flowers. And the reason why I'm not doing the stem right now is because I just painted this leaf next to it. I want to give it time to dry. I can use my heated craft tool, but sometimes it's also kind of nice just to like utilize your time wisely, you know, like just work on a different area.
Right.
So I'm going to use a detail brush, and by a detail brush, that just means a smaller brush that can do a finer line. There's multiple brushes that you can use for this. You can use a round 2, you can use a liner, or you can use a dagger. I'm going to use my 1/4-inch dagger because I love this brush for floral details. And then just kind of using the edge, I'm going to loosely put in the lines of the petals. And the reason why I say loosely is I am not doing a solid even line across around each petal. What that will do is it will flatten my painting. So instead, what we want to do is we want to just kind of like let it go in and out. And what that does is create a more kind of realistic hint of the petals instead of just like flattening it. And if your petals get lost, if you're like, oh no, I can't see them anymore, you can actually just look at the picture of the outline that you have. Like just pull up the picture of the outline and just kind of take a look at it and see where things are. And eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then if you want to add some like little detail lines on the petals themselves, go for it. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's just here and there. You can also draw outside of the watered, like the painted area. So let's say you did this and then you're like, I want to add another petal over here. Like you can, even though there's no paint there. You can do the hint of one or something like that. Michael, do you see what I'm painting right now? Because it's beautiful.
It's incredible.
Again, loosely kind of following the petal edge. We want like a uneven line. Okay. And this is a beautiful thing. Let's say you put in the edge of a petal and you're like, oh, I do not like that. It feels very flat, blah, blah, blah. Take a damp brush and just blend it out.
Perfect.
And it won't erase the line, but it will soften the line, which sometimes just softening the line fixes the problem that you had in the first place. Okay. And then I'm going to do the left-hand side. Again, it's kind of hard to see the line, so I'm just kind of like eyeballing it.
I like that bloom on that flower.
Me too. It's pretty cool. And this, my friends, this is why when we have those accidental blooms, the hint of the green and the hard edge, we say, okay, thank you, watercolor, for doing what it's supposed to do. And I don't know, I think that there's a lot of like watercolorists out there who are against blooms. And sometimes I just think it's a shame because I'm like, no, it's actually really cool. And it's creating so much visual interest when I had to do so little work, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's take my gold. I'm going to mix it a tiny bit with my dusty rose just to give it a slightly different color. And just kind of maybe on the base of where this kind of gold bled out, I'm going to do one more layer just to add another value within the center of my flowers. And that will kind of make it a little bit more dimensional just by having at least 2 values in there.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Doesn't that just like recenter it?
Huge difference.
Okay. Let's do the stem really quick. So the stem is brown. So if we just mix.
Can you scooch that inward a smidge?
Yeah. So let's actually start with mixing the complementary colors. So green and red will have Dusty Rose act as our red. Usually when you mix complementary colors together, they turn brown. Here we go. Let's make it more like orangey though. Let's do more green and more dusty rose. And now we have a brown.
Nice.
You guys might not know this, but Michael is really good at mixing browns.
It's the only paint color I can consistently mix. Just brown. Even when I don't want to,
Even when I don't want to, it just appears on my palette. And then kind of where it's coming out of the flowers and behind the leaves, I'm going to drop in a little bit more of that just pure color brown and let that kind of hang out to show that it's coming out of something. And we're just going to let that be. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add details on my leaves. So we just want a darker value. So I'm going to take indigo. You can mix, you know, the forest green with the indigo or something that's just a little bit darker. So then when I take my detail brush, whatever one you're using, and I do a little thin line, you can see it. And remember, even with these detail lines here, they don't have to be solid. Like that one can be thick. Like let there be variation.
Mix and match.
Mix and match. Play with it. You also can do even more detail lines than just a vein. Let's say you take your brush and just kind of do tip, tip, tip. Tip, 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 tip. You can do the tip. You can, like where it's coming out of the flowers, you can do a couple little boop, boop. Okay. Well, that feels very nice. There is one thing I kind of wish that I had one little leaf kind of coming up here. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
I just want a little something there. So I'm going to grab my brush and just add one. Yes, better. Okay. And I need to do a little detail next to this leaf. So, okay. Then I'm going to let this dry. And see, because I dropped in the brown here, you know, there was uneven amount of liquid. So that's causing a bloom. Again, I'm not mad about it. That is part of the beauty of watercolor. There are things you can do to avoid it. I don't care to though. So if you want to learn that, you are not going to learn it from me. Okay. Our very last step here is we just need to add some texture onto our stem. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. One of them is you can take your detail brush and just do kind of like, and I'm just mixing like a dark value brown here. Basically, I'm just going with all the colors together using lots of paint. So you can add like the wood texture, like the wood grain, which is kind of swirls and the lines kind of follow like that, right? Or if you're a little bit lazy, like me, then what we're actually going to do is I'm going to grab a bunch of brown, dry my brush, and do just a dry brush texture.
Magic.
So it's creating an uneven kind of rough edge without me having to paint every single little strand.
It's perfect.
Of grain.
It's perfect.
And that took 3 seconds. Okay, and I just want to call attention to something too really quick, which is like I feel like my detail lines on my left-hand flower are maybe not as, what's the word I'm looking for, delicate as the ones on my right-hand flower. One, you can just be like, it's really not a big deal at all, and just like be fine with it, because it is okay to not have like a painting that is perfect. If it still really bothers you, what you can do is take a clean, damp brush and blend out the marks. And again, it's not going to make them disappear, but it will soften them. And then after that has dried, you can go back in with your detail brush and mark it up and try and make your lines a little bit thinner. So it's not the end of the world. There are ways that you can like make adjustments to your painting even after you've painted it. And sometimes people think that because it's watercolor, you can't do that. I mean, you can't completely paint over it, you can't completely erase it, but you can make these little adjustments to then be happy with your painting. That's it.
Beauty.
That is our pumpkin. I had a lot of fun painting this. I love that it's just a little bit different for that autumn feel. Please have fun with this. I can't wait to see what you're painting and how it turned out. If you're on Facebook, please join our Facebook group. It's a private group, but it's very supportive. It's large, but it's very supportive. It's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. And so there you can see how other people have painted the projects. You can ask questions, all of that fun kind of stuff. And I just want to call attention to the fact that if you've enjoyed this, like and subscribe. And the only reason why we're able to offer free educational content like this on YouTube is because we have some wonderful people who support us through the products that we sell on letsmakeart.com. So it's digital education, maybe more intermediate projects. Sometimes we have workbooks and physical boxes, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in continuing to paint with us, check that out. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.